Well, good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Welcome to the specially called meeting of the Board of Commissioners to discuss the millage rate. And we're going to do some things tonight to help you give you some context to why we're having this meeting. I'm going to, this afternoon, I did a video that gives you some context both behind how we get to millage rates, how we set the millage rate, and then what we're going to do with the revenue we generate by the millage rate. So there's going to be a video about, 15 or 20 minutes that's going to talk about that. And then after that video is over, then I'm going to call Mr. Volkman up to the stand so we can begin. He's going to have a presentation about the millage, and then I'm going to start the public hearing. So remind everybody that each of you has 3 minutes, unlimited number, much to the concern of my partner on my left here. But I'm glad you're here tonight. I really am. This is what America's all about. This is what democracy looks like. So I'm really delighted you're here tonight. So with that, let's roll a video. Please pay attention. There's some really important points about how we're spending the revenue, and I want you to pay attention to those because I may ask you some questions when you come up to the podium in your 3 minutes. Okay? So with that, let's begin the show. Hello, I'm Mike Boyce, Chairman of the Cobb County Board of Commissioners. And I'd like to take some time today to give you some context behind how we get to the millage rate that we have that's on your tax bill, how we set that rate, and then what we do with the revenues that we generate from that rate. I think the first thing we do, I want to emphasize is that we are part of a larger corporate body called the state of Georgia. And the state of Georgia has some criteria that our tax assessor has to meet every year to make sure that we are properly assessing the properties that we have in the county. And I think it's really important that we highlight that if we meet that criteria, then there's a penalty involved. Now, it's a 3-year process. They give us warning over 2 years, but in the third year, if we have failed to properly assess the property in our county at a digest rate that the state thinks is equitable, then we're penalized. And we're penalized at $5 a parcel, which to Cobb County is about $1.2, $1.3 million. But we got to pay for the 2 years that we didn't do it and the third year that we finally get fined. So those millions of dollars come out of your tax dollars. So I understand as you do, that there are counties around here that are freezing their assessments or trying to roll them back. But I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that ultimately there will be a penalty pay for that, and there will be a jump in assessments to meet the standard that the state sets for us. I hope you understand that we are not a unique individual entity. We're part of the state of Georgia. They're watching how much we assess our property at, and if we don't meet that standard, we will be penalized, and to your interest, your assessment will finally be raised probably with a significant jump to a standard that the state says we have to meet. So in sort of doing that, we comply with the standard and we gradually raise assessments over time to make sure we meet the state's criteria. So that's the first thing I want to point out. The second thing is I just want to briefly go over the county part of the millage rate. As we all know, on your tax bill, there are several components to the millage rate. There's the component that goes to pay for general fund items, how we run the county to deliver you the quality services that you're entitled to because you pay taxes. We also have debt service. That's for the Braves, obviously. We have a public-private partnership with the Braves for the stadium, and this is the debt service that goes to pay for that. We have a fire fund where we fence off money to make sure that we buy equipment and for our fire department, buildings and structures to make sure that you dial 911 if you have a fire issue, somebody shows up promptly at your door. And that adds up to about 9.85 mils for your millage rate. Now, on your tax bill, there are other parts of it. There's, of course, the school tax, all right, which is 18.9 mils. But I only want to talk about that part of the millage rate that applies to our county services and nothing else. So this is what it looked like last year when you got your tax bill. Right now, the confusion has been that the current general fund assessment is going to be 6.89, and that's a significant jump between 6.66 and 6.89. When in fact, and this was probably not properly explained to you last year, what the board decided to do was take this bond, this debt service, because of the nature of it, all right, it was an obligation bond. We were paying, the stadium is a revenue bond. It's a different kind of bond than the obligation bond, which are used to pay off the parks bond. So because of the nature of the stadium bond, we were going to roll that over into the general fund. So what we had here was 6.66 plus 0.23, all right? And that equated to 6.89. Why is that so important? Because that would take this column down to 0. So these two columns added up together are still 6.89. So in 2016, we paid 6.89 for general fund, millage rate, and bond service, debt service. In 2017, we're going to pay 6.89. We're just adding them up differently, but the sum is still the same. Now, there will be a tax raise. There will be a millage raise. Why is that? Because in my campaign, I committed to paying for a parks bond that we voted for in 2008. And the cost of that parks bond is 0.13 mil. So in fact, this column right here will be reduced from 0.23 to 0.13, whereas this column right here will stay the same. So what we have right now is 6.89 for 2017, 0.13 for the parks bond, 2.96 for the fire fund, all right? And what that will do is that will raise your millage rate to 9.98. Okay? That will be your tax raise. Your tax raise is going to be 0.13 mils. For general fund purposes, county operations alone. Again, that's exclusive of the school bond, the school fund, the school tax, and some other taxes that are on that apply to other industries. But your millage rate is in fact going to go up 0.13, all right? And I made it very clear in my campaign that I would be willing to do that to pay for the parks bond. Now, what does 9.98 mil buy you? Well, we have a $383.6 million budget to run the county. 9.98, all right, is going to bring in generally about $383 million, $383.6 million that we collect from property assessments. Almost 2/3 of that goes to paying for the county staff. It goes to paying for their compensation and their benefits. This is the price we pay. $268.8 million is what you pay for a quality staff that is well-trained, well-managed, well-led, and gives you terrific 5-star service every day. So a large chunk of that, of your $383 million, goes to paying for the staff. The second thing we have to pay for is public safety. I think that if you had been one of the hostages that was in the bank last weekend, you would have paid any amount of money to make sure that you had a public safety department that was well-trained, well-led, and well-equipped. And that cost of that terrific public safety force is almost $24 million. General government operations. We have offices that be run around here. My office, the county manager's office, the county attorney, the county clerk, community development. There are a number of programs in this county that you pay for, and that's about almost $22 million to make sure that when you pick up the phone and call somebody, you not only get somebody to answer the phone, but they give you information and services that you've earned because you paid your taxes. Transit subsidy and other matches. It's about $16.4 million. Why is this so important? Because it's sometimes very controversial. Well, I'll tell you why it's important. If you look at the graph that's on the screen here, you're going to see that the service industry is our largest source of employment in this county. And I can guarantee you that a large number of these employees get to work by riding the bus. And if they didn't have the bus, they wouldn't get to work, and if they didn't get to work, they wouldn't have a job that would be paying taxes. I've ridden these buses myself. I remember one morning where a lady got on after having worked an all-night shift at a local restaurant, and she slept the entire 1-hour route from where she got on the bus to the MARTA station where the bus route ended. We have to make a commitment to support these people who want to have a job but don't have the means to buy an automobile and to maintain it. And the bus service does that. I recognize that we have to subsidize it, but in the long run, we'll be subsidizing a population of people here in this county to a more expensive degree if we didn't have this bus system. We have debt service. This year it's going to be $14.4 million. That's what it cost us to pay for our part of the public-private commitment to pay for the Brave Stadium. The information technology. We live in an age today where we're connected by digital equipment. The county service, the county government is no different than you are at home. You're surrounded by your iPads, your Galaxy phones, your PCs. We are the same way here. This is how we stay in touch with the world. This is how we get our information exchange. This is how we store information. This is how we provide you information. And that kind of service costs us about $10.3 million a year. Culture and recreation. We have 85 properties that we maintain in Cobb County to provide you a place that you can go and recreate. It ranges from bike tracks to aquatic farms, to aquatic parks, to golf courses, to places where you can just go and play with your kids. When you show up there, you expect the grounds to be maintained, the grass to be mowed, the fields to be groomed, the lights to be working. That service costs you $10.2 million a year. Judicial services. If you come to Cobb County and you break the law, you will be arrested and you'll go to court. And those courts have to be maintained. They have to have the proper equipment, paper, software, computers. The lights have to work. They have to have furniture. That cost of that service is about $8 million a year. Property management. We have to make sure that all our buildings are lit, that the electricity works, the water flows. That service to all our facilities here in Cobb County is about $5.8 million. Department of Transportation. I'm only going to talk about one thing in DOT, and that's the 4,000 backlog orders we have in trying to get to services that you want us to do, such as mowing lawns, filling holes, taking care of guardrails. $4 million just to do those things exclusive, of paving the roads and making sure we put in new intersections and bridges. $4 million to make sure that we take care of the right-of-way mowings and taking care of other things around here. And $4 million, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't begin to touch the back orders we have here to take care of you. So that's what 380 some odd million dollars buys you. If you look over here on this side of the bucket, these are all the other requirements that we have that we simply don't have the money to pay for. And what are some of these things? Well, as you know, we just had a police report done by the International Association of the Chiefs of Police, and they told us that we needed to hire 60 more officers. The 60 officers are just the start of that bill. We got to also buy them equipment. We have to train them. We have to provide them with vehicles and the support equipment. So that's a shortfall that we simply can't fund right now. Right-of-way mowing. We get constant calls here that the grass is growing too high in the medians. And as much as we try to attack those, we simply don't have the money to address all those issues because we don't have the money in the budget. Vehicle replacement. There are cars in our fleet that have anywhere from 250 to 300,000 miles on them. We have to recapitalize. We have to replace this equipment. It doesn't come cheaply. An average police car is somewhere around $50,000 by the time we get done putting in all the software and hardware to make sure it runs to stay in contact with Command Central. The animal control, senior services, they all have vehicles that it should have been replaced a long time ago. Incentive pay for public safety officials. As we know, the governor this year raised salaries for his state troopers by 25%. There's absolutely no way this county can match that. We don't have the resources to do that, But we have to find ways to get people to stay here in our public safety, whether they're the police department, the sheriff's department, 911, EMT. We have to get them because it's more expensive in the long run to keep retraining people than to keep them here till they finish their careers with us. We have to restore services to pre-recession levels. As we know, we still aren't fully manned at the libraries yet. The Mabel House has some needs. Parks still has some shortfalls. We're a long way from recovering from where we were before the recession. We have other replacement needs, for instance, mowers, office equipment, you name it, the list goes on. When you show up at a ballpark around here or a county park, you expect it to look pristine. Well, that isn't done with scissors, that's done with very expensive equipment. And likewise, when you call up here or you send an email or get on web, you expect to get on that website without even crashing. We need to make sure we do that, but again, that's an unfunded requirement. There are other equipment items that we need to be purchasing along with, besides mowers. There's smaller items like, for instance, equipment for our public safety, not just weapons and tasers, but also their armored vests have to be replaced. They wear those every single day. We also wear out equipment in our offices. Those over time, like your computer, they have to replace. So that list is long, but it adds up to a lot of money after a while. As you know, I'm committed to fully funding the $40 million park bond that we passed in 2008. The parks bond that we passed this year that this .13 is going to address, that only takes care of $27 million of that. So I have to find money in the next 3 years. It's about a $12 million shortfall to live up to that commitment. The Board of Health has and does an extremely important job in the county. They're the ones that inspect all the restaurants, they inspect all the swimming pools, they do well baby. They have a multitude of tasks that we do to make sure that we live in a county that takes care of its people. But they have requirements that are beyond our ability to fund. I'm also committed, as you know, to ensuring that everybody that's a county employee ultimately receives some sort of increased compensation from the pay study. We went 6 years without addressing that kind of pay for our loyal and hardworking employees. And if we want to keep these employees, if we want to keep qualified, well-trained, highly motivated employees, we have to pay them for the work that they do. And they've been way underpaid for a long time. We have to live that commitment to address their loyalty to us. So again, that's just a short list of all the things that are left out that we're not paying for. So I look forward to seeing you on the 10th of July, the 11th of July in the morning, and the evening of the 25th of July if you have concerns about our millage rate. But I would ask you that if you are going to come and ask us to lower the millage rate from below 9.98, I would like you to tell me which one of these blocks you want to take out of the bucket, because that's where the money is going to come from. We are already actively doing programs that are saving you money that you probably don't see or talk about. Every agenda meeting, board agenda list on every meeting has a list of programs where we're saving money because we've done things more efficiently and more effectively. So I can guarantee you that while we're not done with this effort, this county has employees who have your best interest at heart and are reflecting your conservative values of a lean government and only paying for what it is that we require. But again, I just want you to be reminded that we still have some requirements out here that we're not going to fund, but we have to make sure that over time we find a way to fund these, because this is the only way we're going to guarantee that you can safely work, live, recreate, and pursue your dreams in Cobb County. We are not going to lower our standards. We are not going to cut corners. We are not going to become a third world country around here because we do not want to pay what it is to live in a five-star county. Quality does not come cheaply, but we are not spending extravagantly. We are being very, very careful with your money, and I look forward to hearing your comments when you come to the board. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you. Okay, so with that, I'll turn the podium over to Bill Volkman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is our first public hearing regarding the 2017 millage. and I'm going to walk through a brief PowerPoint presentation and then open it up to questions and comments for the commissioners before I ask the public hearing to be opened. So just to start things off, I wanted to kind of give you an idea. This is 2016, or basically 2012 through 2016 comparison between Cobb, DeKalb, and Gwinnett. So you can see the millage rates there. This is 2016. As we know, we haven't adopted the 2017, which we'll do at the end of this month. And we try to do a close to apples comparison. This is countywide millage for the most part that we're trying to compare against across the board. But you can see our millage, as the chairman showed in his video, is 9.85 at the end of 2016 compared to DeKalb at 20.81 and Gwinnett at 13.176. So just to give you an idea of where we stack up against our peers within the metro area. Okay, Chairman, I promised you a bucket slide, so this was the best we could do here. We talked about the different buckets or funds within the county that we considered under Board of Commissioners control. We have the general fund, fire fund, debt service fund, and as the chairman alluded to in his video, in 2016, that total millage was 9.85. We talked about how the intent was to shift the 0.23 mils from the debt service fund to the general fund in 2017, bringing the total general fund to 6.89 mils. The fire fund, the intent was to leave flat at 2.96 mils. And then earlier this year, the board approved the issuance of the 2017 Parks bonds, and that requires a 0.13 mil increase to service that debt. So as you can see, the 2016 total, again, was 9.85. If you add in the 2017 Parks bonds, which is 0.13, you get to the 9.98 mil total for the county. All right, moving along here, we have the general fund tax digest. The key here that I want to point out is that we talk about digest growth and everything within the county. We're looking at a net digest growth of close to 6%. We budgeted 5.49% when we adopted the 2017 budget, meaning that we needed that digest growth to fund reoccurring operations. The 0.23 millage shift was to fund the Braves, a portion of the Braves debt service, but when we adopted the 2017 budget, we planned for a digest growth to fund reoccurring operations, anything from personnel to operations and to transfers and things of that nature. A lot of the items that the chairman covered in his presentation. So that's the key there that I want to remind you again that the digest growth is a good thing, but it is a planned part of our budget. This isn't, we didn't plan on a digest not growing and we found extra money. We planned on digest growth and we basically hit our mark. Like I said, we budgeted 5.49. It came in at 5.69, very close to the mark. We were very happy with that. And just want to reiterate that's part of the budget process. Here's a 10-year history of the digest, and this is the general fund or countywide digest. You can see that 2017 is our highest digest to date, and just give you a little bit of a history there. Okay. And then again, this is going back to what the chairman talked about. What is this fund? We talked about the $383 million general fund budget. The general fund millage would be 6.89. The major services we talked about is general government, public safety, public works, culture and rec, health and welfare. Okay. A couple of the other districts that we have within the county that we don't talk about a whole lot, but we wanted to share with you today. We have the Cumberland Special Service District 2. This is a special service district where we collect property taxes, and the proposed millage is presented there. It's 2.45 mils. And this revenue is dedicated to repay the stadium bonds, a portion of the stadium bond debt service, as well as supplementing local government services within the district. So the key here is this has to be used within the district that generates the revenue. Okay, and then we also have the Six Flags Special Service District. It's very similar to the Cumberland Special Service District. These revenues have to be used within the district, and these revenues are dedicated to the repayment of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority revenue bonds. And then here is our schedule of our digest presentations. Obviously, we have the one tonight at 6:30, and we have one tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And we have the final public hearing on July 25th at 7, and that is also the night that we're asking the board to adopt the millage. And then below this, you can see some calculations of what we presented, a property value of $275,000. The approximate proposed tax increase on property here is roughly going to be $63.8. Now that is an increase over the rollback rate. That is the key. This ad is very specific on how we have to run this. If we were going to generate the same amount of revenues that we would have generated last year, based on digest growth, we would have to roll the millage back to 6.252 mils. So even if you left it at 6.6 mils, which is what we had last year, we would still run this saying that this is a tax increase even though the millage has not changed. Now, as the chairman talked about, we more shuffled the millage around between the buckets, and the only increase that we're having or proposing this year is the 0.13 millage increase due to the park spots. Okay? All right, and then with that, I'll open it up to any questions from the commission, the chairman, or county manager before I ask that we open the public hearing.
Any questions from Commissioner Kiewit?
Not a question, but a comment. It would be helpful to see the millage rate over time
Sure.
in future presentations so we can get a sense of how that has impacted the total digest over time.
Yes, ma'am. We can include that in tomorrow morning's presentation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
And just to give you some history, pre-recession levels, the general fund was at 6.82 mils. So what we're asking now is to go to 6.89 mils, which is pretty close to the pre-recession level.
On your slide comparing us to two counties, didn't you have one before that compared us to multiple counties? Could you?
Yes, we typically go through the whole process of comparing us against multiple counties within the area, and as well as some of the other ones.
Right.
But yes, this is the one that we wanted to do. We took a little bit more deeper dive into this because when you say total county millage, a lot of counties have special service districts that don't apply to the whole county. So what we wanted to do with DeKalb and Gwinnett is identify the millage rates that were applied to the whole county, so we could do a close comparison. As you see on this slide, you have, DeKalb has a fire fund like we do. They have special service districts and unincorporated and bonds. Their special service district is applied to the whole county, and that's why we're excluding our special districts that are applied to only very small pockets of the county. And same thing with Gwinnett. They have various funds that generate property taxes. They have a specific one for fire, EMA, police, where ours, a lot of those services are included within the general fund. So we want to be very clear in apples to apples comparison as best as we could, because the services range from county to county, and also what they collect property taxes ranges dramatically.
And these two counties are approximately our size?
Yes, sir.
Well, so is Fulton. Is there a reason you include Fulton?
The reason we didn't include Fulton is because the unincorporated areas is very different. Where DeKalb and Gwinnett, we have a lot of very similar services, and we felt this was a more apples-to-apples comparison. Fulton has a unique millage structure that's a little bit different than ours because of their setup, but DeKalb and Gwinnett was the closest as far as a more true comparison, so that's why we included them. But if you'd like to see Fulton, we can definitely add that as well.
I think I would, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you.
And I think my understanding of reading something today that Gwinnett's proposing a 0.33 millage rate for this year.
I believe so. I know they're proposing a millage increase for this year as well.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we're gonna open up the floor to a public hearing. I just want to let everybody know that you have 3 minutes, and if you have a question, please ask it when you come to the podium. Okay, that way we don't get sidetracked here from people wanting to line up and go in. So what we're going to do here is I'll let you sort it out by yourself. All I ask you is that you don't stand up, because then you hide. If you stand up on the aisle, then you hide from people behind you being able to see the board and also the people speaking. So with that, who wants to be first? Okay, come on up.
I just have a question.
Oh. You got to come up here, Leroy. Sorry, buddy.
I'm so embarrassed talking in front of all these people. What is the cost of all these services that you claim cannot be covered? That was one question. And second question, the debt service we're paying for the Braves Stadium, 0.23 mils?
Yes, right.
What is your projection for revenues being produced for this county as a consequence of that stadium being in this county?
Well,
and can those revenues not be used to cover the debt service?
No, they can't, because most of the product of the sales from the Braves Stadium, not Battery Park, Brave Stadium, will go to SPLOST dollars, and we cannot use SPLOST dollars to pay for these services.
So are there any revenues as a consequence?
The property taxes are go into the general fund, all right? We're deriving our revenue from the Brave Stadium from the sale of products liquids and food and other material, the 6%. And out of that 6%, we get 1%, and we got to use that for SPLOST products. This has nothing to do with SPLOST products right here.
And
rent also, right.
But there are some portion of those revenues that can be used to cover that debt service.
Not much.
Then what's the purpose of having the Braves Stadium?
You got to ask that we're not here to discuss that, okay? We're here to discuss the millage rate. And I'm happy to go offline with you, Leroy, on this.
Okay.
It's a long, extended conversation, and I'm happy to engage that with you. But tonight, we're here to talk about the millage.
Cost of the services that we do.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, they seem to be extremely important for all of us.
Well, I could probably give you a swag, all right? But the bottom line is that we know like for instance, the center line, the mowing for medians is $1.5 million. Okay, that's to do 2 of your districts, because right now 2 of the districts are paid for by contractor and 2 are paid for in-house. For 60 policemen, we're probably talking about another. Is Sam back there? I don't want to use a number here but it's literally millions of dollars. Okay, so we're not talking small chump change here. This is a significant amount of money. We still have to, the 35, one of the things I didn't talk about, but is on the list, is that part of the agreement with the Braves is that we would, over 30 years, contribute $35 million to operations and maintenance of the stadium. That's in the development agreement. That comes out to about $1.2 million a year. That's one of the blocks. So I've just hit 3 blocks and we're already over $7 or $8 million.
Well, except for that last one, certainly these other services are needed.
Yes, there are. I'm just
Yeah.
picking those that I know off the top of my head here. But what I want to emphasize here is those 10 blocks right there represent a significant shortfall to this county that we simply can't fund because the millage rate won't support it.
Understood, and I believe most of these are most important to us.
Well,
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Leroy.
Emkin. E-M-K-I-N.
And what I'd ask you to do is just let me know, please, your name. I know most of you, but I just need to have for the record so we can send you a letter. Thank you for your time here tonight. Let us know your name and where you live.
Yeah, today I'm using Frank Molesky, and I've been with Cobb County since 1985. I know I'm from a different approach rather than the technical nature of what is going to be coming later on. I wish you wouldn't use the word revenues ever. I wish you would use taxes. And I wish you wouldn't use investment or even expenditures, use spending so we know what we're talking about. Anyway, I know the commission buys a lot of consulting applications, a lot of consulting programs, transportation, human resources, and so forth. I would like to see you engage a consultant to see if the people of Cobb County, the productive people, the taxpayers of Cobb County, can afford it. Now, when I look at my own situation, I'm retired. I have income from Social Security, which is taxed by 85%. Whenever I buy anything, I pay sales tax. I pay federal income tax. In fact, I got a note from the IRS saying I owe them $98 plus $125 penalties and fees because it was since 2014. I pay sales tax for practically everything I buy. You try to rent a room in Cobb County, and you're going to pay city, state, county, federal taxes. I have an ATT UVerse bill that comes every month. It has 4 taxes on it that I don't even know what they are. So when I look at taxes from a county standpoint, I think it's very parochial. Look at from the citizen standpoint, where I'm paying top dollar taxes for federal, state, county, and what else I don't know. So I'd like to have you do a study to say, do the people of Cobb County, can we afford paying additional taxes? And by the way, paying taxes to government is a zero-sum game. If I pay another $300 for a $250,000 home, that means I don't spend that money, the $300, going to a Cobb baseball game. I don't spend it on a new wardrobe or to buy an upgrade on my computer. These are things I don't spend, and that is a charge to small businesses that could use that $300, me personally, and macroly for the entire county. So when government takes money, it doesn't develop growth. It just rearranges it between constituencies. So I would wish you to say, I think the people in Cobb County can afford this tax, and do a study on that. Because, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, I can't afford any more government taxes.
My name is Loretta Davis. You need my address too? Okay, I live here in Marietta. I sure do. I live right here on the city streets of Marietta, and I'm a realtor. So first of all, I want to address a couple of things. A lot of inconsistencies were put up on that board, and that young man right there, he put up some inconsistencies. First of all, he talked about pre-recession millage rate of, I think it was 82, something like that? Pre-recession. And then he made it seem like for us to go to 6.98 is not that much difference. Well, I'm telling you, property values are not back to what they were pre-recession. I know that for a fact. So that's a big inconsistency. Also, like the young man before me, I can't afford it. I work a full-time job, 2 part-time jobs, and because I'm self-employed and Obamacare, I have no insurance, so no health insurance. So that's just an aside. So I'm sure you can imagine how thrilled I am that not even 1 year of us getting rid of Tim Lee, as the citizens of Cobb County, you're trying to pull this stunt. It's not even been a year. Me, my neighbor's sister in Texas, all kinds of people, we supported you. They sent you money from many, many states. And then I am thankful you put that video up there, because if I were you, I'd be ashamed that you showed us boxes of all of those highly important things that you say we can't fund, but right now you want to put more parks in. There's a huge discrepancy. If we can't fund those are highly more important than parks. We could certainly wait a little bit longer for parks, but we already have parks. So, and I don't know who you made that promise to. I don't know what lobby group. I don't know what bunch of people those were, but the citizens of Cobb County are really the people that voted you in. And Joanne is my commissioner, and my friend Donna, Bob is her commissioner. So, and then you said in that video, if you don't want to up that millage rate 0.13, which one of those things would I like to take out of that bucket? Well, according to the video, that bucket was already covered by the 6.85, or the 9, whatever your sum total was. Before the 0.13 would be added, everything in that bucket was already covered. So the 0.13 has nothing to do with pulling something out of that bucket. Now there may be, I've never looked at an itemized thing of Cobb County's budget, but there may be places things can be cut. I don't have.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
My 3 minutes is up? Yes. All right, thank you. That was only about 75% of it.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Boyce. My name's Debbie Fisher, for the record, from East Cobb. I've lived in Cobb County for 30 years, proudly. After your presentation, Chairman, you kind of messed up my notes because you did answer a few questions, but you created a few more, so I'm going to ad-lib. It's a tough act to follow, the two people that spoke prior to me, but I do have some questions. And that is, one of them that comes to mind, the 60 police officers that we need to hire, that are on the blocks, that are still on the table, not in the trash can. I was under the impression those 60 police officers have been budgeted for a long time. Those are backfill positions. Those aren't an increase in the head count. So I'm curious how that cannot be funded. And maybe you can answer that question because I think it's very important. There's only really 3 duties that a government at the county level are obligated to perform. One is collect taxes. 2 is public safety. And 3 is how you're going to spend those taxes you collect. And the public safety issue is ongoing. This started at least 3 years ago when it was identified how short we are on police officers. It was almost 100 positions at that point. So I don't think those blocks on the table are part of the unfunded source. The other thing that I have to ask you, as we go through this legitimizing of raising taxes, I think Mr. Volkman put up that we're actually increasing the digest by 5.8. However, reports in the media are 6.5. So maybe you can answer that question as well before tomorrow morning. Which is it, 5.8 or 6.5? It's a big difference on that much money. Secondly, when we walk through a budgeting process, it would be my assumption that if you have that many blocks on the table, that you look at what we're already doing and where you can cut. I don't hear that from any of you, other than maybe occasionally Bob raises his hand and says, hey, what about? There are certainly programs out there we can cut. And to give, not that I don't think Cobb County employees don't do a great job, I think they do. They do give us gold star service. However, what business in the world would do an across-the-board raise for every employee? That's just ludicrous. And I don't see anyone out there putting the task back on the people who manage these departments to say, here are my top 10%, they deserve these raises. Here are my bottom 10%, perhaps we cut their jobs, not give them a raise for doing a piss poor job.
Ms. Fisher, I'm sorry, you're 3 minutes up.
Thank you.
Before we get to the next speaker, Bill, would you come up here and explain the difference about the percentages?
Yes, sir. The 6.5% is the total digest growth, and that's what's been advertised when the tax assessor put out and the tax commissioner put out their published data. And what we're referring to is the net digest growth, which is after exemptions. His is pre-exemptions, so it's a higher number. When we factor in the homestead exemptions for the general fund, that lowers that rate down. And that's typically what we've seen across the board for as far back as we've gone, is that you always have a higher growth rate at the gross or total digest. And after you factor in exemptions, homestead, and things of that nature, it always comes down, which we referred to as 5.69% is what the actual net digest increase was. But Ms. Fisher is absolutely correct. The total digest growth is 6.5%, which has been out there publicly. But we always factor in the net because that's what we base our revenues off of.
If I remember your number correctly, it was like $300 million in exemptions off the tax digest this year, about $312 million.
Can you pull up the presentation?
So $312 million, if I remember that number correctly, went back into the taxpayer's wallet because they didn't pay that tax.
That's, we're going to get to the slide real quick. I got the clicker. Sorry. We'll put it up here. And let's see, this is a perfect example. You see the exemptions for 2016 was $5.8 billion.
Okay.
Sorry, trillion. Is that
billion?
Billion. There we go. Sorry, counting my decimal points here. And then the exemptions increased to $6 billion in 2017.
Right. So
the net digest growth, that's where we derive our revenues from. So the gross digest has a bigger impact, and this is the gross digest at 5.36. When the tax commissioner advertises his, it's a total digest number, which is slightly different than that. But to help with that conversation, we could add the total digest in here for conversation so the public can see the 6.5% that was discussed publicly through the tax commissioner's office, and then basically how we get our revenues at 5.69.
Okay. So Debbie, do you understand what he's talking about here? Okay, we take out the exemptions, the homestead exemptions.
And
And
like
so
I said,
that lowers down the rate of return that we get from the digest. Okay, just want to make sure you understand that technical part. Well, I think it's very important to also know that there's $6 billion of exemptions granted in property here in Cobb County. Yes.
yes, ma'am. The 62 and over is school board. That's school board. This is general.
Well, that's a school and everything.
Yes. So this is just referring to.
Okay, you got a good point. So what we'll do is we will come up with a number for what the 62 and over was.
And sir, that is related to the school
that doesn't
board
matter.
millage,
That's school
not
board only.
the millage that we're discussing here.
Okay.
So when we refer to our exemptions, that's mostly the homestead exemptions related to the general fund, which is different than the 62 and
Okay,
over.
all right.
for the
Does
board.
that also include tax exempt properties and stuff?
Yes, sir.
So that would be schools, churches, government buildings, and things.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
So it's not just homestead exemption.
Yeah, we can get you a breakout of
Universities, things of that nature.
what's included in the
that
exemption
do not
number.
pay
Okay. Well, at the risk of not confusing anymore,
Right.
the bottom line is we exempt properties here in Cobb County that we do not collect revenues off of.
Yes, and we'll be, like I said, I'll be happy to add the total digest to the slide to be another point of reference to go along with the 6.5% growth.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, thanks.
thank you.
Okay, next speaker.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Boyce. My name is Lance Lamberton. I'm the Chairman of the Cobb Taxpayers Association, and I'm here this evening on behalf of our members and concerned taxpayers throughout the county to express our opposition to the proposed millage rate increase you are considering. Ideally, we would have hoped that under the new leadership, you would be following the lead of our neighbors in Cherokee County and rolling back the millage rate to make it revenue neutral. But even if we were to concede the need for more revenues to fill the quote-unquote holes in the budget arising from the Great Recession, a $2.06 billion increase in the tax digest without even increasing the millage rate should be more than enough, especially considering that these increases will be realized year after year. To add a millage rate increase on top of that is adding insult to injury. Moreover, what have you done to reduce wasteful spending? Spending millions on high-paid, out-of-town consultants, a Cumberland connector that hardly anyone rides, or spending $13.7 million on 3 miles of hiking trails indicates a callous disregard for the taxpayer. Let me ask you, how many seniors on fixed incomes who might be driven from their homes with your increased property taxes will it take for you all to begin to have a pang of conscience and finally realize that your wasteful and bloated budget is causing real pain to real people, the people you are supposed to represent? Quite frankly, I am disgusted with this turn of events. And if you think higher taxes have no economic consequences, I ask you to think again. Many of us in Cobb County, including myself, are taxpayer refugees from high-tax states. We benefit from that, but not for long if we continue on the path you are following. When I grew up in New York, my parents moved to Connecticut to escape oppressive taxation. Now Connecticut taxes are on a par with New York, and the consequences are predictable. Major corporations are leaving the state, real estate values are static or declining, and there is a net out-migration of population. So if you want to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs, then keep on doing what you're doing. Of course, we can retaliate at the ballot box, but don't let it come to that. You have an opportunity right now to do the right thing and vote no to this millage rate increase. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Thank you.
Hello, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Tom Cheek. I'm from Marietta. First, let me say I'm proud to have been born in Cobb County, and I want to die here one day. Not anytime soon, but I think we live in the best county in the best country in the world. And I think that while we discuss these issues, I think it's best if we all keep level heads and talk about the facts, and that's what I want to try to do today. Chairman, you have a problem, and it's a larger problem than some may think. Your problem is more subtle than some of the governmental neighbors we have experienced. We've seen those problems. You don't have commissioners illegally using county credit cards. No one on the board, past or present, is accused of a crime, but you do have a problem. Providing services for a county with a stadium is more expensive than providing services for a county without a stadium. A politically motivated full rollback in 2016 left basic functions of the government underfunded at a crucial time. This board oversees $850 million SPLOST fund that is in real danger of not meeting its legally mandated purpose. The water fund is being siphoned at the maximum allowable rate. Again, there's been no downgrading of bond rating status, no perp walks from this room, but we're using reserves to pay for traffic control. I'm going to say that again for emphasis. We're using reserves to pay for Braves traffic control. This is not a sign of a healthy, complete budget, and I know you inherited a lot of these problems. I know you well enough to know that you will do what you think is right for Cobb County. I hope that you'll take a long-term approach to correct all of these issues. I hope you'll take a close look and see where spending can be cut. I hope you'll take a close look and see where services can be outsourced if it will save us money. I hope that you'll reconsider all of these taxes, not just property taxes, and prioritize the needs of the average citizen over those of big business. Please, whatever you do, don't take from us to give to them. You ask about what blocks we could eliminate or make adjustments to. I ask you to take a look at these, please. I hope that we will stop paying for studies that are designed to help us see if we need to spend money on something. We don't have the money, so don't do the studies. I hope that you'll become 100% transparent. Our website right now says that the 10% coming from the water fund is to pay for police officers. That is a lie. That goes to the general fund. We need to scour that website and take the propaganda out. My time's running out, so that's all the point I'll make, but thank you very much for your consideration.
Anybody else like to make a comment tonight? Would anybody else like to make a comment tonight? Seeing none, I close tonight's hearing. I had now declared tonight's hearing closed. I want to thank you for coming tonight. We've taken copious notes. I can assure you. Addressing taxes is never an easy subject, but it'd be a lot easier if we didn't have people like you making sure that we're trying to stay honest. So with that, declare this meeting adjourned, and good night, and we'll see you on the campus.